back, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for the amazing response on the last sketchbook tour. Today we're going to be going over how you can achieve a comic book style in your own artwork. So let's get straight into it. Quick disclaimer, there is no right or wrong way to draw in a comic style. These are just some of my tips. So I'm just going to be going over 4 main factors that I think about when achieving a modern comic aesthetic. Starting off, number 1, line work. Most comic artists use ink for their line work, and I'm no different. When you're studying fine art, your teachers will tell you not to draw outlines and instead let line be created through tone. However, we can ignore this, but not completely. Just because you can draw every line in detail doesn't mean you should. What I mean is using thicker lines for areas that are more in shadow and thinner lines, even sometimes no lines where the light is shining. A really easy way to level up your line work is simply add line weight, varying the thickness of the line. Okay, so before I repeat myself, let's move on to number 2, exaggeration. This dates back to the legends like Jack Kirby and John Romita Sr., etc. It's shown very clear in the How to Draw in the Marvel Way book, which definitely recommend, by the way. Most of the time, you don't want your characters just standing there like an NPC. Use dynamic poses, and you can do this easily just by basing your pose off of a line of action. And especially for superheroes, exaggerate everything, whether that be anatomy, proportions, or perspective. The hallmark of comics is just being larger than life. Number 3, deciding when graphic shapes over realism. For example, facial features can be more symbolic. Scott McCloud's book on understanding comics has a really great chapter explaining how comics can range from super abstract to hyperrealism. So technically speaking, anything as long as it's in a pictorial sequence can be considered a comic. But if you're attempting a more traditional Western style, find that the key is to find a perfect balance between abstract and realism. You don't want the audience to be confused at what they're looking at, but you also don't want to give them all the answers. Make their brains fill in the gaps a little bit. Mike Mignola and Frank Miller are 2 goats that come to mind when thinking about graphic shapes. So use them for references. And then lastly, crosshatching. This is a huge one that deserves a video for itself, but when used correctly can add a lot of texture and detail as well as depth. It can be looked at as quite an old school technique, as back in the day it was used to create grey basically, and now we have advanced printers so we can just use colour to create grey. However, crosshatching has become so iconic, it's just part of the visual language of comics now. Although it may have gone a bit overboard in the 90s, cross-hatching or just hatching is a great way to add some finesse to your art, but it does take a lot of practice to master. And that's about it. Let me know if this was helpful. Thanks so much for watching. Make sure you subscribe for more videos. Comment what kind of videos you want to see next. Smash that like button and see if we can get to 72 likes, and stay creative.